Hello, welcome everyone. I am Miriam Haugen, part of the Creativity-Hive team, and this is our weekly broadcast. We talk with people, we like to talk with people all over the world in various aspects of video and film, and it's just a really fun journey for us. I hope it is for you too. And today I'm really excited because we have somebody who's just a little bit rather than having years and years of experience in the industry, we have somebody who's just a little bit more at the beginning of his journey. Hi, Chance.
Hello.
So Chance, tell us about your background and what you do.
Yeah, so I started my business, 2.5 or so years ago now. Just out of high school, I actually started a drone photo and video company. And I did that for about a year. And I realized at that point, most of my clients were video production companies that didn't have their 107, they didn't have the equipment. And so they were outsourcing to me for all of their aerials. And I was like, hey, I could probably make a lot more money if I just did the video part too.
Yeah.
So then I kind of made a switch. I bought a Sony mirrorless camera and started shooting that way. And then last year I bought my first Red camera because I was like, all right, this is what I want to do. And so now my business partner, Weston, and I shoot a lot of corporate or, business to business stuff. So, ads, informational videos, that kind of thing. And then a lot of weddings also. And we shoot primarily on my Red cameras and then also Sony mirrorless still. And that's kind of where we're at this point. It's been
and
pretty
so
fun.
The drone is something, just an add-on then to.
Yeah, and we still do drones. We have an Inspire 2, which recently has been kind of finicky firmware-wise. I don't know. And then Mavic 2 Pro as well. That's kind of like my secondary.
Okay.
Drone. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to bring Mo and Neil on here, and we're just going to have a free-for-all. No. So that is okay. Are you at liberty to mention any names of companies that you've worked for, or maybe that's that might be
yeah,
or the kind of companies? Maybe that would be a better way to put it rather than specific.
Yeah. So we've done some work for a couple public companies, which is pretty cool, like bigger brands that most people know about. But a lot of it is like local businesses. I do a lot of work for my parents' business actually for their jewelry stores. So we take care of photo and video stuff for them. Now that was a really easy decision to make, but did my first billboard, which was interesting. But we don't do that much photography. I just do that for them.
Okay, so there's some still stuff mixed in, but
yeah, but that's not the core of our business. That's just an add-on. Like if we get hired to do a commercial, then sometimes they'll be like, oh, we need headshots too. Okay, we can do that. And then, like I said earlier, a lot of wedding videos too, which is just a totally different kind of thing. And I didn't expect that to be a big part of what we were doing, but it turns out that, there's a lot of people that want really cinematic wedding videos. So yeah.
Oh, cool. So, all right. So what would you say, who would you say the ideal client would be for Cascara Films?
That's a good question. Honestly, I'm still figuring that out as we kind of narrow down and figure out what our niche really is. We still do a little bit of everything. I guess we cater to clients with higher end video needs, for one. So we're on the more expensive side of the spectrum locally. So clients with bigger budgets that know the value of high quality video production. That's certainly who I prefer to work with versus people that are on a budget trying to find work for a budget that is also really high end, because that never goes well.
Right. Yeah. Right. They go, oh, you'll get great exposure for this, right?
Oh
can
yeah, I
add
got
it to
that
your
one.
portfolio.
We don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
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 Good to hear.
Yes. Yes. They're those people are often the ones that give you the most headaches too, aren't they?
Yeah. Which is, I mean, when I haven't raised my prices in a long time. I feel like our pricing is still pretty fair. But when I did, I realized I was like, oh, the clients we're working with now are much easier to like, it's just a better process overall. They're more understanding and more conscious of my time and Weston's time and the value that we bring. So
Awesome.
So Chance, how did you transition from the lower end? And I'm assuming you work through agencies now, correct? To get in the work. I'm trying to understand how the work comes in.
It comes in almost exclusively from referrals. I don't spend anything on marketing besides like my Squarespace website. I mean, like my Google email address, custom email, like that's my marketing expenses. So it's almost completely referrals, and then we almost always handle everything directly. So I don't usually go through agencies. I mean, I work as a subcontractor occasionally, but it's almost always like Weston and I are managing the project start to finish, from storyboarding to, we'll do shooting and editing and then delivery as well.
And do you think the factor that plays the most importance in differentiating you from the competition is your aerial stuff?
Aerial stuff, you said?
Yeah, with your
Yeah.
drones.
What differentiates you from others, do you think? Is it the drone, or is it something else, do you think?
To an extent, I'd say yes. I think there's one, maybe two production companies in Eugene that have an Inspire, and otherwise you have to go to Portland for that if you want it in Oregon. Same thing with the Red cameras, though. Like, I'm the only person in Corvallis with one of these.
Okay.
And so at least locally, that is our differentiating factor. Our goal is to be the highest quality available locally. But that comes at a cost, and a lot of businesses can't afford that. And I'm still figuring out how to deal with that. Like, is that a problem? Is that a problem I want to solve, and how would I solve it? Like, anyway.
Okay, so training wise, it sounds like you just on the job, that you just kind of learned by doing.
Didn't
go to film school, right?
Yeah, I did one term at OSU in the physics department, and then a year in the business department, and that was that. Not for me. It's like YouTube, friends. That's how I learn, and just getting in there and doing it. I still have plenty to learn, but yeah, I feel like I got a lot more out of just going out and doing it and learning from people that actually do it versus trying to go to school and then racking up a bunch of debt on top of that.
So from what I can hear is the reason for, or part of the reason for the success, is because nobody else is actually in your area doing this sort of high level work.
Yeah, pretty much. There's plenty of competition locally, but a lot of them are shooting on camcorders or mirrorless cameras, which is totally understandable. Corvallis is not a very big market. I'm in a particularly good situation to be able to scale up my business right now. Like, I still live with family because I don't need to move out. And so the money I would be spending on rent can go into equipment instead. A lot of people don't have that luxury, I guess. So that's definitely been part of it. It's like, I don't have a ton of expenses, so I can buy fancy gear instead.
Right.
So if there was, let's assume, say 10 different guys in your area with Reds or Alexas or any of these high-end cameras, there would be fairly more stiff competition.
Yes, certainly, and we wouldn't be the obvious choice at that point.
Great. I mean, I think you saw the gap in the market, which is great, because you saw it earlier on. You took the plunge and decided to buy a pretty expensive camera, And then you went into aerial photography, and that's also quite an important market at this stage because everyone's shooting with drones. And do you have a drone? Is one of your drones capable of carrying your red?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
I wish. We're thinking a couple
Octocopter
years
soon.
down the road,
Yeah.
but an Alta X would be nice, but
Yes, it's expensive buy. Expensive buy.
extremely-
I guess if a big enough project passes your path that has enough budget to maybe say, hey, you know what, we can get an octocopter or something like that, you might possibly do it, and then you can grow the end user base for your clientele to shoot really high end stuff. Maybe
Yeah.
TV commercials, and you can branch out, and then probably other guys from different states might look in and say, hey, these guys actually have an octocopter or two, which is carrying the red, and they're doing some really crazy stuff. So I think that's a nice way to scale up at some point. Not right now, though, I guess.
No, and I've been looking at the Alta 6s have been coming
Great.
down in price. You can get one for a couple grand, and then you need a little bit of supporting gear. But I already have 2 Movi gimbals, so that's a big expense out of the way. All we need is the drone, some batteries, and a video transmitter.
Yes.
But I haven't made that jump because the Alta 6 doesn't go very fast. The Inspire is able to do 55, 60 miles an hour, and the Alta 6 it's like 35. So, which is fine for a lot of stuff, but not for cars and not for crazy landscape shots that we like to do. So that's why we haven't made the jump. Although I did just get a Komodo, which is going to make that a lot nicer. It's way lighter, so we'll get better flight time. Hopefully faster too.
One of the things on flight speed that from having inhabited a number of the professional forums over the last few years, when you get especially a higher res camera, if you have your flight speed up very much, that really can be kind of an issue for a lot of people with the way the motion is handled, and on the higher res it's worse than normal, and so they're finding that with the big cameras, it's typically better actually to make sure that your moves are smooth and not too fast, and so it's not all that bad that the drones that can handle the red aren't quite as fast as the smaller ones, because that helps you work on having smoothness to your.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't, I used to make drone videos where the camera would pan like this in the middle of the shot. I look back on that like, what the heck was I thinking?
Well, that's how you learn, right? You go, that didn't work so great.
Yeah.
It just seems like, higher speed to me just sounds like a way to get into trouble faster.
I know, and it's something that is not a big, those high speed shots are not a huge part of our work right now anyway. It's just one of those things that I know if I got the drone that was slower but could carry the red, that would be awesome. We could use it for a lot of stuff, but then eventually that would be a problem and I'd have to upgrade again. And that's just another, I might as well just stick with the Inspire for an extra year and then just get the one that can do everything.
Okay.
What about, do you have a URL? Oh, I'm sorry.
We're all talking.
You're going to be upgrading again anyway. It happens.
Yeah.
Chance, do you have a URL you could pop into the comment section, perhaps your reels or something that you can
yeah.
And I'm assuming you have a YouTube channel too.
Yes.
I'm going to want to look at.
I think that's the correct extension.
Okay, I'll put it in the public stuff here. Okay, so everybody can see it, and I'll test it out and make sure that.
Hold on, that's not the right extension.
Okay.
We built that page.
Okay, right. It is the right URL. I'm just looking at the reels. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Subaru. Okay, let's look at that one. See.
It's cascarafilms.com/our
work. We'll put that out there.
I'm gonna fix that.
Oops, wrong thing.
So the Mustang ad and all of those. Yeah. That's
And
pretty
some of
cool.
that stuff is pretty old. I haven't updated that website in a little while. I'm just this week finishing up a couple more projects that are going to go on there.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay.
So okay, so it sounds like a lot of your focus now is just building clientele, building portfolio, and getting equipment. You're kind of a gearhead.
Oh, very much so. Yeah, it's kind of a curse.
So where do you see yourself 5 years from now?
I've thought about it a lot, and honestly, I'm not totally sure. I mean, I love the production company, and if I'm still doing that in 5 years, I would love that. Hoping that that's very successful. I also want to do in the future. I've been thinking about getting into something like real estate investing. I don't know if that's a 5-year goal, but
Ah,
I need to. I don't want to have all my eggs in one basket of video production. So figuring out how to diversify that down the road, but I don't know what that looks like.
all
For
right.
now, I'm just working on video production and seeing where that goes.
Okay, since we're all about post-production, what editing software do you use?
I use DaVinci Resolve now. I think actually you guys might know this. I was on Premiere Pro for quite a while, my first 2 years or so. And then last summer I had to make the jump because Premiere at least on the Apple Silicon computers was so unstable that I didn't consider it a professional tool anymore.
Okay.
I'm hoping that's gotten better, but I haven't gone back to see if it's improved at all.
Chris, I'm not a Mac person at all, but being someone that does do a lot of work on the Premiere Pro forum for Adobe, and also all the stuff I do with the people at Mixed Light, many of whom are Mac, and being on the Lift Gamma Gain forum and the Black Magic forums, the variability on some of the Mac computers right now is really strange for Premiere, because there are some people that are finding it absolutely rock solid, and somebody else on virtually the same Mac rig is having trouble getting anything to be stable on it. And I have no clue what's going on there. But
Yeah.
that's really very puzzling.
I'm a little concerned though, because the last few updates of Resolve have been getting more and more unstable. The first build of Resolve that I installed and started using was completely rock solid. I never found a single bug. And the latest version that I'm using is starting to feel like Premiere, which is not good.
Yeah, I think they all can have problems, can't they?
That's one of the things that I've, in talking with a lot of the people, a lot of the colorists that have been used to up through 16, Resolve was mostly stable. Although
Okay, Neil, I'm going to cut in here because we're getting some cutting in and out of your microphone a little bit. It's not totally clear. Yeah, sorry.
It's quite a weird thing that so many people use Premiere not as a benchmark comparison tool to say you should be like Premiere, but it's actually kind of reverse, where it says I've changed over because it's stable and that's what Premiere should be, or I'm having massive issues in Final Cut Pro and I thought it was just Premiere. So it's quite interesting because lots of bugs, but I guess if you look at Adobe's not just concentrating on Adobe Premiere or After Effects. They're very diverse in what they do, but they have dedicated teams. However, if you look at Resolve, it's just one core team that's pretty much focused, with sub teams on color and fusion and so forth. So it's kind of, you can understand the problems that they do have because it's so widely spread. And I think one of the solutions would possibly to be less widely spread. But if you go less widely spread, then you lose apps. So there's 2,500 apps and that kind of thing. So I think it'll mature slowly as we go. M1 technology, now that the Mac Studio is out, I'm not sure if you got yourself one, but real powerhouse that those processors are. I mean, I saw a review on it. It's insane. I mean, the thermals are ridiculously good.
Yeah.
So I don't know what happened to the poor Mac Pro 7.1 got released and then they didn't release the M1, and now little machines are beating the hell out of the 7.1. Which brings me to the question: what is your workflow like? I mean, are you doing any sort of visual effects? Are you doing motion graphics? Can you take us through a day on set? Let's say shooting that
that's a
wedding
good
scene at
question.
the beach that I saw with the guy and girl, which is cool, and then the one on the cliff. So either one, what would your morning to evening workflow be, assuming that you were under a 24-hour deadline, right? Let's assume a 24-hour deadline, and you had to get it out the next day.
Okay.
Not necessarily ever happens, but it can happen. You never know. So let's put you on a little bit of pressure. 24-hour deadline. You got the job spec. You know what you need to do. What happens the moment you wake up till the deliverable? Can you maybe run us through
I
that?
like this question.
Yeah, well, 24-hour deadline. The only reason I would ever do that is if someone was like, I need my wedding video tomorrow and I'll give you $2,000.
Right, of course. Let's assume it was $5,000, right? So that's your budget.
Okay. Well, normally I prep gear the day before, like the evening before, and make sure that all batteries are on the charger. But in this scenario, first thing in the morning, I would have put the batteries on the charger the night before, and then I have a checklist of all of my equipment down to every single filter, every step up ring. And so I go through that list and think through every single piece. Does this make sense for this shoot? If so, it goes in this box. Check it off. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that way I have a record of everything I brought with me in case something gets stolen. If it hasn't happened to me yet, but I'm sure someday.
Sounds smart.
So I have a record of what I've got with me. And that way I've also thought through every single piece. So I theoretically don't miss anything and get to the location and be like, oh, dang it. Okay. I forgot a lens. So especially for weddings, that's really important because no do-overs. So once I do that, then I pack stuff into the hard cases, and I have hard cases specifically for everything. So I have one for the weapon kit. I have one for the Komodo kit, one for the 2 Sony bodies. And then I'll pack everything up into those things, load them in the car, go out and shoot. If Weston is needed, then I will make sure that beforehand I've gotten his bid for his part of the project. And, sometimes we carpool, sometimes we just meet, depends on where it is. So we'll get out there, set up, shoot, do what we got to do. And then first thing when I get back is I dump cards. And in fact, audio, since we don't get dual recording on our audio recorder, we actually dump that to make sure that we have it. We had one wedding last summer, which audio was not guaranteed, so we weren't going to get sued or anything, but we recorded audio. It showed and played back on the recorder. We got home. The file was not there. It's just totally gone.
No.
The folder was created. The file wasn't there. So now we dump the audio to the computer and verify that there is actually sound there every time. It has never happened again, but we still do that. But
So
yeah,
do you do that during the job? I mean,
at the very end. So at a
very
wedding, we'll do the ceremony, record the audio, and then I will get B-roll of guests mingling while Weston grabs the card and throws it in his computer to make sure that we actually have it. Not that on a wedding, not that would help.
Really? You go, oh, we got to restage the ceremony now.
I know, right? No. But interviews as well, we'll do that because they're a little more forgiving too. But anyway, once we do that, then we'll finish our shoot, pack up. I'll go through my checklist again while we're packing up to make sure everything's accounted for. And then when I get home, the very first thing I do is I come back. I'm talking to you guys on my 14-inch M1 Max laptop, but right here next to me, I have an M1 Mac Mini, which was my editing rig before this guy. That's connected to my soft RAID OWC RAID enclosure, right? So I'll plug everything into that, back it up to the RAID, and then make another copy on my SSD for editing, verify that everything is there, and then I have 2 copies of everything. And, I have a whole filing structure and all of that stuff. So once I do that, then I can take my SSD, plug it into the laptop, open up the project in Resolve, and then edit through that thing. For corporate clients, businesses that we work with, usually I'll send off like a rough draft to make sure before I spend 5-6 hours fine-tuning everything that it's on the right track. Just like we like the music, we like the general order and feel of this thing, because that way if they want major changes, I haven't spent hours working on stuff that's going to get deleted anyway. So once that gets approved, then I'll finish it and polish it, all that stuff, and send off a deliverable. Usually I'll do a 4K and a 1080p version. The Reds acquire in 6K. I don't deliver in 6K ever. But at least 4K.
Are you editing? What's your edit timeline like? Are you doing any proxy work, or is it just transcoding, or are you doing 4K?
Yeah, so we don't, at least I very, very rarely make proxies. In fact, I haven't since I got this computer. It's just fast enough that if I set and again, I'm in Resolve, so I'll just set the timeline resolution and the red raw decode quality to 1/4. And that's enough for it to play back smoothly through the entire editing process. And in fact, for the Komodo and the A7S III, you can leave it at full res and it even plays back fine. So, I'll get it all cut together. And then when I start my grade, that's when I'll turn everything up to full res. And then I render out the 4K timeline at 4K and again at 1080p. And then I'll deliver that via Google Drive most of the time, unless they request something else. Sometimes they'll be like, "Oh, can you mail me a flash drive?" I guess. Anyway. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that answers the question. So what I took from that is that Chance lives very dangerously, right, Neil? Because without having the luxury of having a DIT on set, he could just have shot a blank card of visuals and not even know it. I'm just saying, it's happened. I've been there, and that's why your DIT is so important. That on set, you verify, copy 2 copies, make sure your footage, delete the card, load again, or just delete the card and have it ready for the next. Because assuming there was an issue and you didn't shoot the footage, there was nothing on the card. I mean, it looks like it's recording, everything's green light and going at red light in this case. And you take the card, pop it out, put it in your bag. Okay, good. Take 1 or first 2 hours or 1 hour of the wedding. And you come home and you pop it in, and it's like 63 kilobytes of super high res compressed.
I'm going to get heart
nothing
palpitations just thinking about it.
So what would happen in a case like that? I mean, is that not a workflow you perhaps maybe would like to think about just for safety?
Are you frozen, Chance? I think Chance is looking very
pale,
still.
And is pale. I think he's shocked. Is he either really totally shocked?
He's really shocked. I said, there you are. Back. You're moving again.
Got it. Whoops. My Wi-Fi is a little finicky up here. Sorry about that. Yeah. So we, well, I always, first off, I always like check on camera to make sure I have files that play back. So it would, it could slip by if it somehow got wiped as I ejected it to swap cards. Yeah. That's the only time in.
No, darn, he's frozen. Oh, too bad.
He'll be back. Oh, yes, he'll be back.
He'll be back. I liked his other face that he was frozen on before. But, oh, I think you're back. Maybe. Maybe not. Well, okay. So you're moving again. Yay.
Am I back now?
I think you're back.
now, yes.
Okay. Sorry about that. I just hopped over to another Wi-Fi network real quick.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay. Where was I? I like the idea of verifying cards after they're ejected, although usually that doesn't happen until I get home. But I will verify on each camera that I can play back clips occasionally throughout the shoot just to make sure that things aren't getting corrupted. At least while the card is in. Neither of the Reds offer dual recording, which I still am surprised that they don't do that. For such an expensive high-end camera, you'd think that 2 cards would be a no-brainer. Sony does it for $1,000. So, but that said, on the Sonys, I always shoot to 2 cards, so that if one does fail, we're good to go. And hopefully they won't both fail at the same time. I have had cards fail in the Sony, but those were all Lexar cards, and I do not use them anymore.
Okay, cool. All right.
Yeah.
So where to next? What is your next port of call? Where do you think, or where is the next place you'd like to be?
The next place, like business-wise, or like to actually?
Yeah, I mean, I guess in your shooting career, would you want to get into TV commercials? That's a different kettle of fish altogether. I mean, I'm talking large scale now. So production company, producer, line producer, all of those. It's like being on a mini movie set, right? So would you like to direct? Would you like to be behind the camera? That's pretty much what I'm asking.
Gotcha. So in that situation, I mean, I don't have a lot of experience working on sets like that, but I think I would probably just like to be behind the camera.
Okay.
But, I guess we'll see. I honestly don't have a huge interest in working on sets that big, purely because I just like running the show and doing everything, which to an extent is not super scalable, which I understand.
No, yeah. Look, you and I kind of started the same, waiting videos and that kind of stuff. So I had a little EX1 that I used to carry around and make work for me, and it did. And then you go up the scale, and then you change and change and change, and then you're starting to shoot different cameras, high end. And then a client gets to you and says, I want to do a TV commercial. And that sort of budget is not a small budget, right? So it's massive exposure as well. So you get into it and you realize you're one of 2 types of people. You've been behind the camera all the time. You've been directing yourself, and you've been choosing the lighting conditions. And here you're at a point where you either choose to get behind that camera, or you choose to direct what's going on. And a few fortunate people like James Cameron and so forth actually get behind the camera themselves and direct it themselves. But that's taken probably 30 to 40 years worth of experience. So the question was kind of, where do you see yourself? Are you more of a DP, or are you more of a person that's directing? And it's difficult right now to answer that, I guess, because you're doing both at the moment, right? But which area is your area of passion is where I'm at, actually.
I definitely enjoy using the camera more, but in a lot of situations, I'm telling Weston what to do with his camera. So I guess I have experience doing both. And it's just, getting the project done however we need to. But using the camera is what's fun and is why I do it. So I'd probably end up DPing if I was on a set like that. But, ideally, we would just be able to do it ourselves. But
you like being on set more than, say, sitting at your computer and doing all that.
Yeah. I do not like editing. That's why I got a really fast computer, so that it takes as little time as possible.
Got it.
So the editing process for you is not as creative as shooting and bringing that footage back. That's a pretty interesting statement, because when I was doing it, I found that it was the other way around. as much as you can spin the magic behind the lens, because you're controlling the lighting and so forth, and the motion and the movement. I think for me personally, the magic was being able to stitch that together and make it magical and tell the story. So it's very interesting. And Miriam, I think Neil would agree on this. This is how people break out into different fields in movie making, or you're working with movies.
Yes.
So
yeah, they figure out where
they figure it
they
out.
gravitate,
Yes,
what their personality.
yeah, I got to a point where I just didn't want to look through the lens anymore. So I'd be on a TV commercial, I'd be directing it, and my DP would say, "Come have a look at this," and I'd be like, "Just it's lit properly. Show it to me on the director monitor." But my mind was about the final product, even though we had to get that footage. So it's pretty interesting what you're saying. Do you have any words of advice for guys that are beginning? And it's a difficult one because so many are beginning this journey. I mean, it's a saturated market right now.
Yeah, very much so. I think it's really important to figure out what differentiates you from your competition in your market, though, not just like, I'm going to make the most cinematic stuff and they will come. I mean, if your market doesn't care about that, then that's not important, right? Yeah. I just happen to be in a good spot where people care about that, but there wasn't anybody offering it locally. So like one of our clients who we're doing a big project for next month, my contact actually said to me, she's like, we used to go to Portland for this, but now you're in town, which is why we called you. And, that's really pretty cool. And it's nice confirmation of my hunch that people wanted better quality without going farther away.
That is great. And we should, since not everybody that's watching this necessarily knows that how big your market is. When we talk about Corvallis, that's a town of 50 to 60,000. How many people?
I think it's between 60 and 70 now, but it's, Oregon State University's here. So, it's a college town with a lot of, there's a lot of businesses that cater to the college students and want like modern looking media to go with that. And that's helped get jobs. So,
and there are other similar sized towns in the neighborhood, you might say, but our major metropolitan, which is about an hour and a half away, right? And because I'm just up the road from Chance. Neil and I just live in the neighborhood, so to speak. And anyway, Portland area has about 1 million people in the metro, I think.
Something like that.
Last I knew. Anyway, maybe a little bit more, I'm not sure. But so it's a smaller market, but that has some advantages, I think. You have, because you can more easily niche down and go, okay, and see what your market needs. There's not as, in some ways, as much competition as there is in a bigger market.
Yeah.
And Chance, what happens when you find that population, has, I wouldn't call it become saturated, but there's not enough business coming from it because the corporates have done their stuff for the year, or weddings aren't going. I understand, that's fine, but maybe you want to get onto bigger and better stuff than weddings. And would you look at starting marketing and moving out of your area of comfort, so to speak, and getting into different areas?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely consider it. I already have a little bit. I just haven't had enough of a need to do that yet. I guess comfortable where I'm at for now while we still figure out some other things. But yeah, and I get business up in Washington, a couple times a year at this point. Most of those are weddings, but we just did a big shoot in Seattle last month, that's
about a 4-hour drive, 4 or 5 hour drive,
4.5 maybe.
Yeah.
That was an interesting one.
Yeah.
It was cool, but
And that was for like a corporate, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's kind of the extent of like the travel, though. I'm down in Eugene occasionally, over on the coast quite a bit, and then actually in Salem a lot too. We just did one there 2 weeks ago, and we're going to be going back next week to do another video. So.
All right.
Okay, that's
All
cool.
right. So things are going well. It's great that you are. The word of mouth is working well for you. It sounds like LinkedIn. Do you get any business from LinkedIn, or is that a way that people are connecting with you at all? Just curious about that.
No, because I don't use it as much as I should. That's right. I feel like I could if I spent more time on there, but I personally just do not enjoy using LinkedIn, as valuable as I know it is. I open it up once or twice a week, just see what my notifications are, and usually they're like, "Here's your daily rundown." That's it. Awesome.
Okay. All right. Well,
I think Chance is in a place where he's finding himself in a very opportune position due to the necessity that's needed, because people need what you do. The differentiator is the higher end work. Did Chance by any? Oh, sorry for this pun, but did Chance by any chance do the Portland video you guys sent me, the one through the woods and that promo for the town? Remember that one?
the promo for the town.
For your town? Yes, for the town. This is Portland, or this is Oreo. It was something through the woods. And
are you talking about one that I sent you?
Yes, that.
I don't think Chance did that one, but
Chance, you should have a look at that, because that was a really high.
Okay,
it was shot very, very well. Okay. Seriously well. So if maybe Maureen can send that to you, have a look at that. That's another market sector, I think, for you that would be very cool, because promotional videos for the town, you've got your drones, you've got high-end cameras, and people are looking for this really great cinematic look and feel for promo videos, not just corporate, just promo videos for an entire town. This is what we do: aerial photography, going through the branches, going through the trees, the usual kind of stuff.
And there are some governmental entities that have budgets, that have grants available and whatnot to put together tourism things. So, which I think, tourism. Yeah. So this has been really great. I think. Sorry to be making you quiet, Neil. We could hear you. It just wasn't as. We're going to sign off, everybody.
Cool. See you next time. Nice to see you, Chance. See you in a bit.
See ya.